So I wanted to kind of give you a little story time video about how I started working in Hollywood and how it happened very quickly for me, and the steps that I took and kind of how you can get started. Some things have changed since I've been in the industry, but some things are kind of the same. So I want to give you some advice and help you out. So if you're interested in that, then I would keep on watching. Alright, so you're still here, so you want to know a little bit more. I'm Kytia L'amour, and I'm an actress in Los Angeles, and I'm also a YouTuber, also a writer, also a singer, also a dancer, but today's video is going to be focusing on performing and specifically acting, and for TV and film. I know that some of you guys are stage actors. That's not my forte. I love TV and film a lot more. I have done theater. I did some training in college and did some theater, but for me, I feel like I'm at home when I am on set, not necessarily on stage. Some of you have asked me about my acting career because you are pursuing acting as well, or modeling, or some kind of performing arts kind of thing. So let's rewind a while back to when I first moved out to LA. I was in Hawaii and I had just gotten married, so I was moving to LA to be with my husband. He's from out here, I am not. But when I came out here, it was around Christmas time, so almost exactly 9 years ago today is when I started working in LA. And I had some previous experience in Hawaii. There were some shows filming out there like Lost and some movies, some Adam Sandler movies, and there were projects, but definitely not anywhere near the amount of projects that happen in LA, obviously. So fortunately I had some experience, so it wasn't completely a fish out of water thing, but it was definitely going from a small pond to like a big lake. It was definitely a culture shock, a business shock for me, coming from being able to audition for lead roles to I'm just trying to find work as an extra. So this is mainly focused on the first couple of gigs that I got, which were mainly featured or background work, but I did end up getting like a feature film role, which I did do a video about. You can check that out. And also, I'm a Christian. I'm a believer in the entertainment industry. So if you're thinking, hey, how can a believer be in Hollywood? Like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. I also have a video about, is God in Hollywood? Should Christians be in entertainment? So I will also link that above. So let's get into this story. Like I said, this was about 9 years ago today. I moved out to Los Angeles and I was like, I'm gonna make it. I'm just gonna start looking for work. Mind you, I had no idea what I was doing. I literally had no idea. I started off on Craigslist. So I go on Craigslist and I'm just looking for acting roles. And one of them stood out. It was saying, this is a hit show on MTV. It's gonna be like a prank style show. If you're interested and if you're like down to have a good time, like, that sounds strange, but it was like, if you're down to have fun on set, basically come and apply. So I emailed the person and I got a response within a day or two, which I was shocked because this was during holiday time, which I know now there's a lot of projects are usually on hiatus. People are out of town. They're not really doing a lot of work. There's a couple weeks in December and January where literally like nothing is happening in Hollywood. So I didn't know that it was such a big deal that anybody was even casting and that they let alone got back to me, because there was probably hundreds of emails getting through to them about actors who want to be on set. So I sent them, I think, a picture that I had, and then I was like, hey, I'm down, I'm available. So they shot me back an email and they're like, great, you can start next week. And I was like, wow, like, I'm just getting over the holidays and now I'm like working like immediately in January. So he's like, yeah, report to set. This is gonna be where we're gonna be at. And my husband did have a full-time office job at that point, so he had to take me to set before work. We had one car at the time. He took me to set before work, and then he would go to work, and then my days would usually be like 10, 12, 14-hour days. So even though he dropped me off before he went to work and picked me up after work, he would still be waiting for me in the car sometimes because his 8-hour day was over and I was still on set. So that was a really cool project. It was called Disaster Date and it was on MTV and it aired in all these different countries. Like a friend of mine who lived in Italy was like, I saw you on MTV. Like, that's so cool. And the other thing that's really cool about it is as a background actor, you're used to being invisible, but with this prank reality type show, we got to have lines, we got to interact with the lead characters, all of it was improv. So there were some times where I was featured on camera and there were some times that I wasn't. So I would just be sitting in the background, and all of them took place in like a restaurant or a coffee shop or someplace that you would be eating. Basically, friends would call into this show. They would submit their friend to be pranked on the worst date ever. So an actor would go and pretend like they're the worst date ever, and at the end it's like, you're on disaster date, and all the cameras come out and whatever. So it was a really cool show, and the people who made that show also were producers of Jersey Shore at that time, as you know, was a huge deal. And then they also were involved in The Real. I don't know if any of you guys watched that show with Tamara and Adrian and Jeannie Mai and Lonnie, and there is like really cool like discussions on there. So this production company was like kind of a big deal, and it was cool that I got to do that. So I did that for months. I would just say, hey, I'm still available, and they would book me, and then I would just report to set, and we would just be doing this all day pranking people. And I had really cool conversations with the other extras because there would be so much downtime between the disaster dates that they would film. So during one of those days, there was another actress, and she was telling me like, hey, how come you're not on LA casting? Like, you could get a lot more work. This is all you're doing? And I was like, yeah, this is basically it. Like, all I do is I work on this show. And then I don't think I was doing anything else for a while because I was also doing modeling, and that's a whole nother story. Let me know if you guys want me to talk more about how I got into modeling out in Los Angeles, and that happened pretty quickly too. But anyways, I was also doing modeling and I was doing acting. So the acting side was mostly, this show was my bread and butter. And I would literally get paid $50 per work day. For a 12-hour, 14-hour day, I would get $50 cash at the end of it. Like, that just shows like how humble beginnings it was. But some jobs, they actually don't pay you at all. So at least I got paid and they fed me and all that. So I kind of felt almost like I was at daycare. Like, hey, I'm on set, but they're feeding me and they're taking care of me and telling me where to go and what to wear, so whatever. So that was still fun and a good introduction into the business. So after that, I was like, I need some legit headshots because this other actress was telling me about LA casting, and that is now known as casting networks. Basically, you create a profile, you put up a picture, you have your resume, you have skills and talents that you're good at, and then you can submit yourself for different roles that fit you, that fit your look or your skill or things that you're interested in. There's print, TV, commercial, film, all of that is like a hub on there. So that was actually really beneficial to me after I got my headshots. Fortunately, I was already into photography at that time, so I would literally set up the shot, have my husband take my picture, I would edit the photos, and I would put them up, so I didn't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars in getting myself out there. But I did have to pay a monthly fee on LA Casting, now Casting Networks, in order to be able to submit myself for jobs. And while I was on LA Casting, there's also agents that will look up actors to see, do I want to sign you on my roster? Do I want you to be a client of mine? So from there, I actually had somebody reach out to me and they're like, we'd love to meet with you, we'd love to represent you. So that's how I got my first agent, and that was only a few months after I moved to LA. And I was like, this is great, like it must be easy to get an agent. Spoiler alert, it's not easy. I feel like that was just favor from God that I was able to get an agent so quickly for commercial work. And I've gone through a few different agents for different seasons of my acting career. Other ones were from referral. The two other agents I had were from referral, so that helped out, but that was because the casting directors really liked me and they wanted to see me come in more for auditions, so they wanted to get me with an agent so that I'd be legit. So anyways, like that's a whole nother story. But after doing LA casting and booking myself in different roles, it kind of seemed to be more music videos. I would get casted for a lot, and like big names in the music industry. And let me know also if you want me to do a video about that, like my favorite celebrities I've worked with or the worst nightmare projects that I've ever worked on. I can do a whole story time about that. So if you guys want me to do that, leave that in the comments as well. So yeah, I was doing a lot of music videos and stuff, and then I booked my first feature role, and that was about 6 or 7 months after I moved out here. I believe it was the summer of 2010 is when I booked the feature film. So like things were moving and shaking and things were happening. So that was great. But then afterwards, there was someone who was telling me about another company that casts called Central Casting, and they're still huge. They do stuff in LA, New York, all over the place. You'll see them in the credits of a lot of major movies. Is Central Casting did the background actors casting. So the thing with them, I don't know if this is still the same, but I'm sure you can look it up and find it. But the thing with Central Casting is, I believe it was 1 day a week at a certain time. They would do like basically a cattle call where a cattle call is basically like anybody can come in. So they would do a whole cattle call where you would come in and they would explain like, these are the rules for working with us. If you're gonna work, be professional, show up when you say you are. If you're not, you're gonna get penalized. And like, they're legitimate, like they get it done. So you go in there, you listen to all the rules, you fill out the paperwork, then they take your picture and you're good to go. You're in their database. And back then, you could only call in on a phone line, on a hotline, to see what background roles were available. So they would say like, we're looking for mixed ethnicity, women from 20 to 40 years old who have business casual clothes. Like, if that's you, basically like call in and then we'll see if we can book you on the show. And that was really cool because once I got the rhythm of it, because it was kind of weird to me to have like a hotline that you call. I don't know why that was weird, I just thought it was. But because I was so used to doing everything on the internet and I was like, get with it. And I think nowadays they actually do have a way that you can submit through social media and emails and more digital stuff and not so much the hotline. But back then it was the hotline and you would call in and you would give them the first 5 digits of your social security number so they could look you up and see what you look like, and then they'd say yes or no, and then you would get details on call this number to get all your details for set, and they would tell you what to bring, what time to be there, where the location is, and all that stuff. So the first thing that I booked through Central Casting was actually to work on the show House. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was about a doctor who was basically like addicted to painkillers, but he was like very witty and like he just one of those tortured soul kind of people, but they would solve mysteries about people's health. Like there's a lot of doctor hospital shows out, and that was one of them. And so I was on that show in the background, and I remember driving onto the Fox lot, which is in, what area would that be? Century City kind of area. The Fox lot is over there, and I remember driving on it and being like, oh my gosh, like I'm on the lot. Like, because when I first moved to LA, I would drive past like, oh, Paramount Pictures, Sony Pictures. Being on the Fox lot, I was like, I made it in the gate. Like that was a huge deal to me. Like I made it in the gate. I'm driving here. They're letting me park and I'm going to work. And it was just like so cool that I got to do that. So that was my first thing. And I noticed that working through Central Casting was more like union work, and they had rules and they had like their stuff together. Working on LA Casting or things like that, it was more just like not as professional. It was a little bit frantic. You just didn't really know what to expect when you showed up. Like you didn't know if there was going to be any food. You didn't know if people were going to be nice to you. You didn't know how long you're going to be on set. But with Central Casting, because they're booking through a union, you get overtime. You get fed. You get paid on time. You know when your check is coming in the mail. So I'd say Central Casting, though I got minimum wage basically because I was non-union, it was nice to have that professional aspect to it and know like when I show up to set, there's going to be people who are serious about their jobs, and they're going to treat me not like an animal. They're going to treat me like a human being. And that was like awesome to have, because there's plenty of sets when you are background where they kind of treat you like the scum of the earth, which is unfortunate. It's like really sad, but that is what it is. So most of the stuff with LA Casting, you're treated like an animal, but you do get paid and you have experience. But with Central Casting, you just feel like you're a business professional showing up to work. This was just over time. I just started kind of developing a system for myself. Like, okay, if I'm not working with Central Casting, I'm always looking up and submitting myself for things. My agent is submitting myself for things. I'm going on auditions, and it is kind of a crazy career to have because so much is just last minute on call stuff. Like you might not know till the day before that you're gonna have an audition the next day. So if you had planned to go out of town, or if you plan this, then you have to book out, and then your agent's like, hey, I thought you were available but you're not, and you're just like, I can't sit around all day just waiting for an audition, just waiting for somebody to book me. And I would sometimes just not even show up. I would just say, yeah, I'm confirmed for this, but so many people go to auditions and don't do this. I'm not advising you to do this, but for me, the times where I was just over it, I was like, I'll say I'll go and I'm just not gonna go, and nothing would happen. But there was some times where I'd be at a commercial audition and I would see the casting director like calling the agents like, yeah, your actor so-and-so didn't show up today. And I was like, wow, thank God that never happened to me. Like, I didn't even know they cared. So I was fortunate that I never really got in trouble for stuff. They didn't really find out once I just stopped telling them that I needed to book out. But it was kind of a rat race, and I didn't really have a strategy. I was just like, I just want to work. And that's something that I mentioned in my regrets that I have in my career video, where if I had more of an action plan and a strategy and even prayed about it more to get instructions, I feel like my career would have been handled differently and it wouldn't be so frantic and all over the place. But either way, it is what it is. You can't change the past, and I'm here now and I have a better strategy for my future and doing things. And there are just really cool projects that I'm involved in now and opportunities that come up even just through this YouTube channel, and I think that's awesome. And I get to pick my schedule. I get to say if I'm available or not, if I want to work with people or not. And for someone like me who's a Christian, who has certain convictions and things that I don't want to do, it's nice to just be able to say like I have the control over what I'm saying yes to, and I don't have to be afraid that when I show up on set it's going to be some weird stuff going on. So that was my advice, the 3 main things that I say you should take away from it. I don't know if I would do Craigslist, but that's where I started. I don't even know if people are casting on there, but LA Casting, now Casting Networks, I would totally do that. And there's even another website called Casting Frontier. It was kind of new around the time that I had my daughter, so I didn't really do it much. I haven't been in the acting game since I've had her, and she's now 4.5. So that wasn't really something I was doing, but now they have a lot more castings going up for that you can actually apply to and submit yourself and upload pictures, have a resume, and blah 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 blah. So Casting Frontier, Casting Networks, and Central Casting, those I would definitely advise. And there's so many more out there, but those are the ones that I can vouch for that they're super legit. And I think there was another company called Commercial Background Actors or something like that I used to use. You went in, took a picture, filled out paperwork, and then they would text you to say, are you available for this job, yes or no? And then they would send you details. That was actually pretty cool, and I got pretty good paying stuff from that. So I'm gonna actually look that up and put it on the screen. All of these I'll look it up, put it on the screen, and send links to them, everything that I talked about, because maybe this will help you guys out. So if you have any additional advice about getting in the acting game, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And also, thank you so much for watching. Every Wednesday I'm here talking about acting or beauty and fashion or doing challenge videos. So check me out on Wednesdays, and also on Sundays I talk more about my faith in God and what He's doing with me and what He wants me to share with you guys. So Wednesdays and Sundays, come back here. And if you haven't already subscribed and you think you want to see my future content, go ahead and join the family. Also, click that notification bell so that you can be alerted the moment that I upload a new video. All right, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye. Hi. Bop, 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 bop. Okay, just stop it. I don't know what to do with that.